Hello and welcome back to Park Friendly Parlay with Keaton Downey. It is the final race week of our triple header through the Americas. We are down in Brazil, in São Paulo, for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Another one of my faves. I love the track. I love it's got just a feeling around it. Obviously, you can feel the legacy of Senna everywhere around this track all throughout this weekend, and it's palpable. I also think it's going to be a really special race for Franco because Argentina is so close to Brazil. I wonder if we'll get quite a lot of Argentinian fans going to show support. We had quite a few in Mexico, but I think we might get even more in Brazil, maybe. So I think it could be a wee special race for him. It's going to be a very special race for Lewis. I heard that he's going to be driving Senna's McLaren around the track. Seb's making a return to do a little bit of a tribute to Senna. I think it's just going to be a very special, wholesome weekend off the track. On the track could be different because the championship is, well, shall I say championship back on? There's 4 races, 2 sprints. That is enough for the gap to be closed. In both titles, I would say it is more than enough of a gap that it is more than enough time for Ferrari to win the Constructors. And I'm just saying, I'd really enjoy that. I would love if Ferrari won the Constructors. In the drivers, is there still a chance that Lando can get Max? Yeah, there is. I mean, anything could happen. Max could DNF 3 times. Do you know what I mean? Like, genuinely anything could happen. And I do think, I kind of called the championship off at one point. I was like, championship's over. Max has won. Lando will never close the gap. I'm throwing championship back on. After Mexico, I am throwing the championship back on, baby. So let's crack on with our predictions for Brazil, and it is a sprint weekend. So we are going to kick things off with sprint pole. Max Verstappen. I think he will be able to get a pole pretty easily this weekend. It is like we're returning to normal altitude. We're not going to have the issues with the cooling of the car and all that kind of stuff. And I just think he's going to be able to nail it. As I said last week when I put him on pole, he'll just pull together a perfect lap. It's what Max does. And he will just easily get pole position. Sorted. Sprint pole, Max Verstappen. Now, for the sprint win, I'm going to go Max. Max will win the sprint because I think once he's on the go, he's on the go. I have no doubt in my mind that Max could make it. Like, Max could just do a clean sweep of the sprint races this year. I genuinely believe he will. He absolutely hates them, and to get them over with quickly, he wins them. Like, he absolutely hates the sprint. He hates the weekend. He hates all of it. And I genuinely think he just wants to get it over and done with so quickly. So he drives as fast as he can to get it over and done with. And that is a sprint win for Max Verstappen. And I would say the same for Qatar. Let's put that in as a prediction. Max Verstappen will win every sprint in the 2024 season. All right, now moving on to pole position for the race. Now, I think we might be getting a little bit of a changeable condition. I love a changeable condition. All that was missing from Mexico was just a little sprinkling of rain. A little of rain. Just should we put a little intermediate on? Give me a little dribble of rain and I'm happy. That's the only thing that could have made Mexico better. For pole position, I'm going to go Max. Again, I think he will be able to qualify very, very strong in Brazil. I don't think he's going to encounter a lot of issues. I think he's just going to have a pretty decent weekend up until this point. and he will then take his 5-place grid penalty because he's taken a new combustion unit. Is it 5 places? He is going to be taking an engine penalty, so I think that's where his sort of lovely weekend maybe slightly comes to an end, because he's going to have to do some fighting through the field. And this kind of feeds on to a prediction that I've got coming in a little bit. I think it's more of a statement than a prediction after this, but I think he'll do well in the sprint and the sprint quali, and I think he'll do well in the quali and take his penalty. But I don't think that would ever let that man stop putting that car on pole. So Max Verstappen, pole position. For P3 in the race, Carlos Sainz. I reckon Carlos is going to have a great time out there. That Ferrari seems to be the car to beat at the moment, to be quite frank with you. And I think that P3 and P2 are going to be like down to the wire. Like, I think it's going to be a battle for P2. And that who gets P2 just manages to cross the line. I think it's going to be one of those really tight battles that we get in Brazil that is just like, leaves you on the edge of your seat. And Carlos is just going to miss out. But that Ferrari does look like the car to beat this weekend. So for P2 in the race, Max Verstappen. Now, I think he's just going to miss out. In fact, no, because I'm going to say that my P1 for the race wins by an absolute margin. But as I said, I do think him and Carlos, P2, P3, will have a bit of a good battle right towards the end. And this will feed into my prediction coming in a little bit, but he will race fairly cleanly, but aggressively, and cinch P2. So yeah, Max Verstappen, P2 for the race. And for P1 in the Brazilian Grand Prix, I am full on the Delulu train, Charles Leclerc. Charles Leclerc will win the Brazilian Grand Prix. That Ferrari is the car to beat. That man is the man to beat. Charles Leclerc, winner of the Brazilian Grand Prix. And the crowd goes wild. Woo! I mean, I will be going wild. I will literally lose my goddamn mind if he wins another race this year. And I'll take Brazil. Let's go win them all, babe. Let's go win them all. I am full Charles Leclerc Delulu. I fully believe he could get second in the championship and Ferrari can win. And I am bought my ticket on the train. It's left the station. Choo-choo, Charles Leclerc, hype train. I'm pretty much the conductor of it at this point. I'm putting all my eggs in his basket. Let's bloody go. Because we've seen that he can start further back. He doesn't even need to get the qualifying. I think this is the beautiful thing about this car, is that it qualified so well last year, but its race pace was shite. This year, they seem quite happy to sacrifice just a little bit in quali because the race pace is so much better. And I'm happy with that. I'm happy for him to have a slightly poorer qualifying, not mental. Like, I'm not talking anything more. I'm not talking like getting knocked out in Q2. What I'm talking about is taking a P4, taking a P5. P4 seems to be his lucky spot. Taking somewhere in there and going on and winning the race. Charles Leclerc to win the Brazilian Grand Prix. Okay, so for my other predictions, we are going to witness a Max Verstappen masterclass. Now, obviously, he's not going to win because I've put Charles Leclerc to win, but he will come in with his engine penalty, which will only affect the race, the Grand Prix. He'll take his grid penalty, so he'll have a brilliant sprint qualifying, a brilliant sprint. And then he will obviously get dropped his positions in the main qualifying for the Grand Prix, and he'll have to fight his way through some cars. And I think after the criticism that has come towards him from Mexico and from Austin, where people say he can't drive and race clean, he's dirty, he is dangerous, there's just been a lot of criticism towards him, and I think he will use this weekend almost as a middle finger to all of those people that have criticised him and race very aggressively, but race very cleanly and do one of those mad Max Verstappen moments where the moves he pulls are spectacular and they're bold, but they're not forcing anyone off the track and he's not doing anything pretty mental like what he did at Turn 8 in Austin. No, sorry, that wasn't Turn 8 in Austin. Turn 8 in Mexico. So yeah, I'm going to say we're going to see a much cleaner weekend from Max, but no more aggressive than what I would expect Max Verstappen to drive. My next prediction lies with the Haas boys, and it's another double points race for Haas. I love watching Haas at the moment, and I never thought I'd say that. Like, Haas used to be my Sauber, but I'd be like, oh God, is there any point? Like, genuinely. Now, I'm like excited to see them out there. I'm excited to see them racing. I'm excited to see them qualifying because they're doing well. And I am loving this little battle that they have at the moment with the RBs in the constructors' standings. And I think they're going to have another great weekend. Double points in the bag for them. Come on, Nico and Kevin. They're just doing great. And it's so nice to hear the optimism coming from the team where, you know, they're saying that they're excited for the next few races because they genuinely think they've got chances at points. And it's so refreshing because it was so a little bit defeatist last year, but that's because they were getting absolutely hammered left, right, and centre. So I am loving this Haas this year. I'm absolutely loving it. So double Haas points, and they will extend their lead over RB in the constructors again, because I'm going to put no points for RB. No points for RB. Don't know, just feel it in my bones. Don't know why. Now, after my prediction coming in last week that we would get a Perez disaster class, which we got, we damn did got it. I kind of want to say that he'll have a slightly better weekend. I do think he'll make it out of Q1, but I don't think he'll make it out of Q2. I do think he will finish within the top 10 of the sprint, but outside the points. As I said, I think he'll make it into Q2 in qualifying, and I think he will scrape a point. He will be nowhere near where Red Bull need him to be, and I think it's all just down to that man's confidence is absolutely gone. I think it is. I think we're just witnessing him crumble completely. And it's quite sad, actually. But I don't think it's going to be another great weekend for Perez, to be honest. However, I do think it is going to be a lovely weekend for Mercedes. We have both drivers back on the new spec this weekend as they were bringing out a new chassis for George Russell's car. I think it was the chassis they needed to replace. So he will be running the same updated package that Lewis Hamilton was running in Mexico. During the race, Russell was running the Silverstone spec of the car because when he crashed in FP2, they didn't have any of the parts, so they had to switch him back to an old spec. So I'm going to say a lovely weekend for Hamilton and Russell. I think they will be back in the mix, in the fight. They've both got the upgrades on now, and it's let's go Mercedes. There we are, predictions done. That is everything from us. We will be back on Saturday after the sprint to recap everything from a sprint race and any notable points from sprint qualifying. I'm going to group those two together, and if there's any big news from practice, because there's only one practice session this weekend, we'll include that when we talk about the drivers. We kind of only sort of really hit the high points and the low points if there's any really, really low. And then we'll be back after qualifying, and then we'll be back for our race review. But that is everything from us. We will see you after the sprint. Love ya. Bye.